By budget, all I really mean is understand what it costs you to run your business day to day instead of coming up with just merely a random number of what you think someone will pay for your services. Because at the end of the day, that may not leave you with enough profit for the business to be worth it. And I would hate to see you burnt out in a year, 2 years, 5 years saying, I don't take home enough money in order for this to be worth it. And all of that can be avoided if we just start out with a really clear, intentional plan of creating profit.
You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 198 of Design Curious Podcast. Now that it's July, we've already kicked off boot camp, and it's going strong, and so I am working into a summer series of guests is what I'm calling it. Instead of having every other episode have some of my wisdom incorporated on the solo episodes, we're just going to have guests for the next 8 weeks, basically, because I have so many interviews that I've done that they have been stacking up and I need to get them out to you all. So back-to-back guests are coming up for you this summer. I'm super excited. To start us off, we have Sallie Ogden, and she is a business strategist and founder of Brimm and creator of Brimm Capital, her proprietary framework for helping female entrepreneurs build real profit, not just revenue. After scaling her own company to multiple 7 figures and experiencing firsthand the burnout that comes from unsustainable growth, Sallie became obsessed with building smarter systems that create clean, consistent profit. Today, she teaches women how to simplify their sales, install repeatable systems, and leverage AI as a strategic growth partner, not a gimmick, so that they can scale without hustle-heavy launches or constant content creation. Through her program and trainings, Sallie helps creative entrepreneurs move from chaotic income to predictable profit using data, structure, and smart automation. Her mission is simple: help women build businesses that generate wealth, protect their time, and actually feel sustainable, which is everything that I believe in. So let's hear from Sallie. Hi, Sallie. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. It's great having you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I think the subject is very important. So, though your company is the Brimm, tell me a little bit how you got into just founding your own company. And I know you scaled it up and, you kind of come up with your framework based off of your own business. But what intrigued you to start your own business in the first place?
Yeah, I started out in the corporate world. I practiced labor and employment litigation. So I did law first. I did that for 10 years and never really loved the practice of law. But I really loved being inside someone's business. And that was a lot of what you did for labor and employment law. We call it HR law for short. And so I did everything having to do with the employer-employee relationship. And so I drafted non-compete agreements, non-solicitation, employee handbooks, contracts, you name it. And I really loved that side of things, the operational efficiency. And I then had an opportunity to take over a corporate and tax firm. I did that for 3 years and ran that business. I really focused it on revenue growth and then realized I really need to actually focus on profitability. And so we did that, and we had a 70% increase year over year in profit. So after that, I did kind of the CEO, COO for hire thing. I went from law to real estate to retail to sales. That's about enough. There were 6 of them until I had a female entrepreneur come to me and say, hey, would you teach us what you've been doing in these other businesses? And we've seen you growing them really rapidly. Can you teach us how to do the same? And I said, what would that look like? And she said, I guess you would coach us And I was like, oh, perfect. Okay. So that's kind of how I fell into coaching, and sort of the rest is history. I've been doing that for the last 9 years and really focused on helping women make more money. That's always kind of been my tagline, is my goal is really to help women create wealth. And that's where decisions can come from in communities. And, the statistics back it to say that communities that have women that have wealth benefit more and are more successful.
Yes, 100% agree with that. And for the interior design industry, especially in residential, it is predominantly female-owned businesses. And so I think that's going to be great for our listeners today. And I noticed you had said that at one point you shifted from focusing on revenue to profit. So tell us a little bit about that shift.
Yeah. I always kind of say we get into our business sometimes by accident in the same way that I did. And maybe your listeners can identify with that. You're good at something, and so you're attracted to doing it, and you begin the process of starting a business simply by charging someone, right? I mean, that's just the very simplest version of starting a business. You charge someone for your services, and then there you go. And next thing you know, you are realizing, oh, wow, this is something that could really sustain me and create some serious income for my family. And so you just begin to ramp up your actions and do more of it. And that's what I found myself doing is, oh, if I could just do more, if I could just work harder, then I would have enough revenue that it would just fall to the bottom line. I would just have the profit that I need. And that doesn't ever actually become the case. And so I realized along the way, wow, revenue is actually my ego, and profit is what creates freedom. And so if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would have created a budget from the very beginning. And I know everybody is probably like wanting to throw up a little bit when they hear that word. And I get it. But now with AI tools, that is a much easier task than it ever has been before. And by budget, all I really mean is understand what it costs you to run your business day to day, instead of coming up with just merely a random number of what you think someone will pay for your services. Because at the end of the day, that may not leave you with enough profit for the business to be worth it. And I would hate to see you burnt out in a year, 2 years, 5 years saying, I don't take home enough money in order for this to be worth it. And all of that can be avoided if we just start out with a really clear, intentional plan of creating profit.
Yeah, I love that. So you created a framework called Brimm Capital. And so how does that different from other growing your revenue advice that people usually have out there?
Yeah. So I started a new company, actually 2025. I realized that there was probably an opportunity for me to strategically help business owners. So instead of just coaching them, and I always call coaching a little bit reactive because I'm reacting to the questions that you have for me and I'm reacting to the information that you're providing. Brimm Capital is more consulting. It's an opportunity for me to go into someone's business and be able to strategically analyze it. And so I look at the 5 areas of your business that really matter and determine, are you setting them up in a way that creates the most profit? It protects your margins. Do you have a clear revenue model? Do you have repeatable sales systems? Do you have predictable cash flow? And if not, then how are we going to be able to do that? And it does not happen with just launch more, sell more, add more, or scale harder. Instead, it is design better, measure smarter, and simplify deeper. Instead, Brimm Capital really is about me showing you that it's the simplification of your business that will really help you amplify it. I do that work for people in Brimm Capital. And I always say the Brimm is my coaching arm where I help walk you through, maybe some particular issues that you're facing in your business, maybe on in a 90-day period.
Okay. I like that. Would you consider that kind of like a fractional CFO service then?
I would. I would. Yeah. I mean, the 5 areas are operations, sales, marketing, finances, and people.
Mm.
And so
You're going
always
beyond finances then also, like you're looking at all the systems.
all the systems,
Yeah.
and really, even if you don't have people on your team, you want to plan as if you are going to, because we all deserve to have support, not need, but deserve one day to have support that will free you up so that you can do the things that you're best at in your business. And so I look at each of those 5 areas in a comprehensive way, or I just look at one of them. If you particularly say, I have a great business, I've got the finances tackled, I just really need to understand how in the world to acquire new clients and what does marketing a service-based business really look like. I would do better if I had a plan that I could just execute on. So I go into businesses now and help develop that plan for them. And I'll put together a 12-month roadmap of exactly what they need in order to execute a marketing strategy that will create profit for them.
I like that. Okay, so you mentioned AI and using that as a business owner for creative businesses. How can we use that? Like, what are your recommendations for AI instead of just, I mean, a lot of people use it just for creating content, for social media or other content for verbiage on their website or something like that. But I know there's other ways. So what do you recommend to your clients?
Yeah, I am obsessed with AI. I think that it is going to be your greatest asset. And please do not, I see a lot of service providers being fearful of it. And so they lean out and say, in order for me to maintain my authority, then I need to have it be my creations entirely. And I don't want you to think that AI is here to take your job. It's not. You have to know the deep information that you know about design in order for AI to really work well. No one else can duplicate the responses that you are going to get at all, because it's good information in, great information out. So I say embrace it. It is here to stay. It is, again, I think the best thing that ever happened to female entrepreneurs, because we need help, right? We have many jobs inside and outside the home. If you're looking to save yourself time and energy, AI is the way to go. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox about that. But specifically for interior designers, what I find, I work with a lot of interior designers, and what I find is they have 2 jobs. They have creative director, and then they have unpaid administrative assistant / department head. So AI can do things like draft onboarding workflows. So let's say you need to onboard new clients, but you don't have a seamless flow. It requires a lot of manual work from you. So creating that first contract and putting that into place and customizing it. Yes, there are things like Dubsado and things that a lot of my clients use, but this is another level of customization that you could never have inside a Dubsado, which is just an administrative tool that can create a process for contractual relationships, essentially, and take payment. But let's say you wanted this contract to be extremely specific to this particular client. And that's where I find a lot of my interior design clients were creating custom project overviews and contracts that were only used for one time. And that means it is time consuming. If we can't use it again and again, then we're wasting time and energy. But what AI can do is it can take the last project you worked on, you can feed it into AI, and you can ask it to assist you with the onboarding process of this particular client. Add in some specific contractual language that you specifically want to this client, change up the terms, the service agreement, any bit of customization that you could possibly want. You could have it then automatically sent to the client. You can have it automatically signed and sent back. And then it could trigger a situation where it sends them a personalized custom email thanking them for getting started and giving them the next few steps. So even if you're saving 15 minutes, say, by doing the action of automating that first email or automating the process of updating that service agreement, then what we find statistically is it takes 23 minutes between tasks. So when you're switching tasks, let's say one task is going to take you 15 minutes, and then you want to get back to your design work and you think, oh, all I have to do is customize an email. Well, it takes 23 minutes for you to get head down back into the previous task. So in all actuality, we're talking about almost half an hour. So that's 30 minutes tacked on to the 15 minutes that you just had to spend crafting that email. So now 45 minutes is wasted. And all you were trying to do is just send an email when AI can do that in a complete automation for you without you having to touch anything. I mean, imagine if you got back 2 hours every single day just by eliminating 2 15-minute tasks.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
I mean, which you absolutely can do. I mean, you can structure proposals in half the time. You can standardize some of your vendor communications. You can build margin tracking frameworks. You could have project profitability analyzers created. You could organize sourcing comparisons. My husband, I was saying this before we started recording, he is definitely the techie, but just a great example is he wants to buy a new car and he created an app last night within AI. And yes, he's techie, but he does not know how to code or anything crazy like that. And in one evening, he created an entire app that would go and analyze all the cars he wanted within a 100-mile radius. Imagine if you could do that for sourcing comparisons.
Yeah.
And it does it all for you. And it ranked them in order. And it even ranked them by how long these pieces have been in their inventory so that he could be able to negotiate better. I mean, I just thought that's a great example of something when you're trying to source. It's going to give you more data, more information. And the more information we have, the better off we are, the less blind spots we have, the less chaos we have, the less scope creep we have. And these are all things that are really hurting designers today.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of platforms out there for AI that are available. But if someone has been maybe leaning away from using AI, do you have any that you recommend for them that are kind of approachable to start using?
My favorite one that I recommend to all my clients is Claude, and that's Claude. And Claude is user-friendly. What's beautiful about it, especially for designers, is that you can create projects. For anyone in their 40s like me, think about it as your old school folders system in, Microsoft. And so projects are just simply folders. And you can upload within that project into the quote unquote files section. You can upload everything that has to do with this project. And the AI will know to access that information each and every time you want it to produce a result. And so in that files folder, you could put things like your onboarding email to the particular client. You could put the contract. You could put this sample budget that you guys came up with. You could put the scope in there. You could even put sample imagery of things that the client liked within, maybe they put together a Pinterest board and you want to take some of those images. You could upload those in there. And Claude can analyze that information and ensure that every single time you are producing something for that client, that you are doing so within the boundaries and the scope that you originally created for that client. So to me, that is massive because it can cut down on the amount of time that you're having to spend. You can ask it for suggestions. You can ask it again to source things for you. I mean, really, the possibilities are endless. You can also upload all of, say, if you have created something like a brand outline or brand guidelines where it talks about, this is specifically how I speak to my client. it can take all of that information so it can know you intimately. It can know your brand. So if you're like me, for example, I'm never going to say the words girl boss. It's just not me. It's not who I am.
Yeah.
So my best friend, Claude, and I talk all the time. And he would never say that to me. So when I'm trying to produce an email, he's never going to put that in the email or in any kind of documentation, because that's not what I would say. And so a lot of fear is around, how is it going to know me? How is it going to speak like me? And if you don't have a brand guidelines document, that's okay. You could still have Claude create one for you. You could have it go and search all of the information on the internet that you have written, or that maybe is in your social media or in your LinkedIn profile, or if you previously had a blog. It can pull together all of that information and create a brand guidelines. Or heck, even more so, let's say you don't have any of that stuff and you're just getting started. Then tell Claude, hey, I want to create some brand guidelines so that I know that you're going to speak like me. Ask me enough questions so that we can get to the point where you know me well enough to produce a brand guideline. And so you just tell it to talk to you, right? Ask me questions as if you are, a marketing expert and I have tasked you with creating brand guidelines for me. I want you to pretend like you are that marketing agency and I've just paid you $10,000. Now ask me any questions that they would ask in an effort to create brand guidelines for me. And AI can do that just immediately right there for you.
So helpful.
So helpful.
Yeah, especially when you're first starting out, because you have limited resources. You can't spend $10,000 on a marketing agency typically. Down the road, you might want to refine it and actually hire somebody to help you with that. But this really gets you off the ground for sure. Okay, so I love that, working with Claude and having the AI systems help you just be able to scale. Now, if someone's getting started and, when we talk about scaling, it's not necessarily like you want to have 50 people working for you. It's like, you might just be trying to take on a couple more projects so that you can be making the income that you want to make, maybe. So what are some mistakes maybe that you see some of these female entrepreneurs making as they try to start scaling?
One of the biggest ones is they try adding more offers, more platforms, more team members, more content. Again, believing that more complexity means that they are scaling. And again, really what we're talking about when we refer to the term scaling is being able to amplify yourself and the amount of clients that you reach. And so if you think about it, the only way to be able to do that is to have less, to have things that are systemized and duplicatable. And again, I know you creatives, I know you guys think, oh my gosh, don't put me in a box. If you put me in a box, I'm just going to want to rebel. I get it. But I believe that you want freedom more than you want your creativity to live in your administrative side of your business. So if you want freedom to go and to be able to do all the things that you want to do, creating structure and less offers and having your business as simple as possible is the best way you can do that. And to me, that is really beginning to focus in on who your ideal client is, starting with a very clear niche. It was definitely one of the biggest mistakes that I see is, I call it, female entrepreneurs operate a little bit under the guise of, just because I can, I should. And just because you can serve a particular client does not mean that you should. Again, if you create a client relationship with someone that is really different than the previous client you served, guess what? You're going to have to create all custom new things for that client because it's going to be so wildly different. But let's say your niche is creating amazing lake houses. Then fantastic. I bet you're going to find a duplicatable system, not design, but administrative system that can work for that type of client. And therefore, you could take on more of them. You could have 10 of them at one time instead of 2, because you're not having to completely create things from scratch. And so for those starting out, the biggest mistake is trying to serve everyone and then trying to have all different kinds of offers to serve everyone: big, small, medium, large, extra small. And instead saying, I work best doing X, Y, and Z, serving lake house owners who are wanting to design build project and want to do it in a 6-month period. That is great. Instead of an aesthetic. That's where I see a lot of new designers begin out. They say, oh, well, my aesthetic is modern transitional. Great. I can serve anyone that is looking to create a modern transitional home. Okay. Who is anyone? If you can't answer that question about your ideal client immediately off the bat, then you probably haven't developed an ideal client yet. And guess what? AI can be your best solution there. You can go back to AI and say, Claude, help me figure out exactly who my ideal client is. I would love to work with modern transitional homes. How can I begin to narrow that process down and identify exactly who the ideal person is that is looking for that type of aesthetic? Maybe it is somebody who is transitioning from their first home to their second home. They're not planning on it being their forever home. They are looking to make a renovation. They are looking to do all of the rooms except for the bedroom. You can get as specific as possible. And that does not limit you. It actually makes you grow faster. Think of it this way, as the last thing I'll say about this. If you have a handful of rocks and you throw that into a lake, it will create a very small ripple effect around each tiny little rock. The ripple effect won't go very far. However, if you were to take all of those rocks and mash them together into one big rock, and you were to throw that into the lake, just one, and not many, just one rock, that would create a much larger ripple effect. And that's exactly what happens when you focus in on one specific area and niche. You become known faster and your business becomes referable. So those are kind of the major mistakes that I see. And hopefully those will help some people avoid them.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to frame it because, we've heard before about niching down and speaking to a specific audience, but I love the approach of thinking it as simplifying, like having a simpler process, a simpler message that it can really help you to be more profitable.
100%.
And I know that kind of feels counterintuitive sometimes because you're like, I want to be more profitable. Maybe I need to offer some more things, like have this kind of consultation, that person. And, so it's just like, that's where your mind immediately will go to if you're thinking about trying to bring in more revenue. But
let me serve and expand and serve more clients. But it's the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So there's some work to be done, mindset work to be done about that. So so people need to then definitely be coached around that. So why don't you tell us how to find you so that people can work with you?
Yeah. So I always tell people the easiest is probably Instagram. Just shoot me a DM. It's at @the_Brimm, BRIMM. And you can send me a DM there. You can go on my website, which is growwiththebrimm.com. And there is information about getting in contact, or heck, there's even a Calendly link where you can book an info session on there. And we can chat about whether or not I would be a good fit for you. I always tell people I'm the first one to tell you if I'm not. And I have lots of other resources if I'm not the best fit.
Love that. Okay. Well, perfect, Sallie. Thank you for coming on today and giving us a good perspective on how to be more profitable and how to simplify to make the most out of our businesses. So I love that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
So if you'd like to learn more about Brimm Capital or talk to Sallie, you can reach her. Her contact information is in the show notes. And I also want to say that my design mentor is still going. Even if you missed boot camp, we will do boot camp again come winter. So you can go ahead and get on the wait list for the next time around if you missed that. But we always have My Design Mentor going. You can get in there and get some help and coaching or whatever it is that you need with your career working with me through that online program. So love to have you in there. Also, don't forget about the great downloads that we have available for you. All of that can be found below in the show notes. Okay, that's all I have for you this week. Next week, we'll have another great interview. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.